being that we have the world out here, I think that it's all on you just taking the initiative and understanding that at the end of the day, when you're passionate about something and if a transition is what you want to make, you sometimes the opportunities might not knock at your door. So you have to create them for yourself. Like, that's what the beautiful thing of social. You can literally create anything and put it out there, and someone might pick it up and see it. All it takes is you really just stepping outside of your comfort and, betting on yourself.
Joining me today is Krystal Benson. She is a creative director at Clique Bait. So Krystal, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course. Let's go ahead and get started. Krystal, in the most simple way possible, can you please tell me what a creative director is and what a creative director does?
Yeah, so a creative director is someone who takes your idea, right, and brings it to life visually, right? So, and that can range from a variety of different things, whether that is with creating content, right, or helping to come up with the campaign for your launch rollout. They are the ones that help to connect the dots of what your vision is and helps to showcase it to the world.
Okay, amazing. So now, what made you want to get into this career path? How did you get your start in it?
Well, funny enough, I've always been a creative person since growing up. Like, I actually went to art school, but I think really the pandemic is what fully immersed me into the space. And initially, I was living in New York, and for the first. I moved to New York in 2017, and from 2017 to 2019, I was a stylist assistant. So still in the creative space, just in a different form, right? And at the time, I was a micro influencer, so I was creating content for brands. But then people kept reaching out to me like, "Hey, can you do this for me?" Or, "Hey, can you do this?" And so I at first I was doing it because I truly enjoyed it. But then it was like, all right, this is starting to seem like a job, But it was like a blessing in disguise because, fast forward to March, it was March 13th, 2020. That's when I initially launched Clique Bait to a group of women-owned entrepreneurs in the Brooklyn area. And then that Monday, everything shut down. So it was definitely... It was a first. This is my first time going through a pandemic, right? But what was happening was that either a lot of people were unfortunately lost their jobs, and so they needed to find a way to show up online, or people just wanted another income, and they too wanted to figure out how to show up effectively. So like I said, it was definitely a blessing in disguise. But honestly, if it wouldn't have happened, I don't know if I'd be here today. So I'm thankful.
Yeah, that's great. And so now, what parts of your job are the most exciting or the most interesting to you?
I think the most exciting is being on set of a project, right? Like, after being in the weeds and doing the strategy and, talking with the team and then bringing it to life and seeing all of the things come together, it's super rewarding because, there are some people, creativity is just not their thing. And so I'm just blessed to be able to use the gifts that God has given me to help others, right, reach their goal in business, whether that is to tell their brand story, reach sales, all of that. So that truly is a rewarding experience. And I think the other thing that I truly enjoy is being able to put people in position to do the things that they're passionate about. Because I realize that I don't want to do it all, right? So maybe even though I can take the photos and I can make the videos, there's someone who's passionate about that. So being able to give someone an opportunity to use their skills to help someone else, that rewards me as well.
Yeah, wow, that's great. So now, kind of on the flip side, what parts of the job are harder, emotionally challenging, or maybe just not so fun?
I would have to say the part when you're trying to get clients to see the benefit. In this day and age, obviously, where the economy is wild, at the end of the day, especially when I work with a lot of small businesses, budget is a thing, right? And so I've seen a trend of a lot of clients that I had going to the DIY method, just because, budgets aren't there. And sometimes, at the end of the day, while I love to help everyone and like do all of the things for free, I still have to live and take care, you know, and
Yeah, of
pay
course.
bills, right? So
Yeah.
that is the difficult part when they don't trust me in the forefront to bring out the vision and to like see it through.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm working on now. Like really just, I mean, I can show people cool creative things, but it's really getting them to buy into knowing that like, all right, in the forefront, we have to make this investment and do it scared and trust that it's going to yield the
Okay.
results that we want.
Yeah. So now this next question is kind of along the same lines, but what do you think that people underestimate or overestimate about being a creative director?
I think they may underestimate you're doing more than just the creative part. So sometimes when you
Okay.
hear, oh, creative director, you think fun, but then there's still
Yeah.
strategy that has to go into that, right? And so
Okay.
there's within strategy, there's analytics. So you have to do research. And sometimes people automatically think, okay, I get to do the fun things, the things that are all bells and whistles, but
Yeah.
understanding that there's still work that goes into it. So I think that's probably one of the biggest.
Okay. Great. So now, what are some niches that someone can choose to specialize in within creative direction or being a creative director, if there are any?
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, first, the industry, right? There's so many different industries. From fashion, you have
Yeah.
creative directors in fashion, right? You have creative directors with campaigns. I think you have to, in terms of niching down, figure out the industry that you enjoy most. Because
Okay.
even there's a creative director that works with an insurance company, right? Because at the end of the
Okay.
day, they still have to tell their story effectively, creatively to their audience. And so I think it's about finding that industry, that passion that gives you the fuel and drive to do the things. And then once finding that, especially, I mean, really not even convincing, like in the fashion and, you know, campaign space, people know they need a creative director. So it's a little bit easier of a buy-in. But for the example, insurance, right? Like it's about going in there and letting them know, like, all right, this is the
Okay.
benefit. Even though creative, you think of like, oh, because insurance isn't fun, but you still have to creatively sell this product, this
Yeah.
service to an audience, right? And so it's like it might take a different type of creativity and a different level of, you know, different tone. But
Okay.
yeah, I think a creative director can be within any space. I think it's just all on how
Okay.
you look at
Okay. Now, just kind of out of curiosity, for generally for creative directors, is this a role that is like, does every company have or look for a creative director? Is it a company specific role, or is it a company that has a whole bunch of creative directors and they kind of go out and work on projects? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the company. Like, I
Okay.
think that, you know, for an ad agency, they definitely probably have more than one, right? Because
Okay.
like, even though creative still sounds fun, it's still work, right? So to try to
Yeah.
have one person working on 30 different ideas is unrealistic. So I think it depends on the
Okay.
company. But then when
Okay.
you niche down to a smaller company, like going back to that insurance example,
Yeah.
their creativity might not be as robust as needed. So maybe there's a
Okay.
one person that comes up with the idea, and then there's
Okay.
different partners within the team that help to bring that idea to life.
Okay. So now with that being said, who are some of the biggest employers in this industry?
Hmm. I mean, there's so many. I don't like.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at ad agencies, hmm, Loudon and Kennedy. I mean, yeah, I mean, Nike has creative
Yeah.
directors. Like, even because I mean, right now, like in full transparency, I'm in the space of looking for additional income just because of
Okay.
the way the economy is. And I've been on LinkedIn and on the Indeeds, and you know, like, there's a creative director for everything. Here in Houston, being that this is an oil and gas space, I
Hmm.
mean, there's certain companies that need that.
Wow.
So I think
Okay.
that also what I think is beautiful is, you know, in this day and age where visual, you know, social is a big thing, right? Every
Yeah.
brand, no matter the industry, needs a social. So
Yeah.
it really realistically every company could use a creative director. I think it's just all, like I said earlier, it's all on how you spin it, right? So some
Okay.
people you might have to do a little bit more convincing for some companies, whereas with the agencies and the people that this is what they do, it's a little easier to
Okay.
make it make sense, you know?
Okay. So now going into the income side of it, I had to look up maybe the average salary for a creative director, and according to Google, it is about $138,000. Do you think that's accurate? What do you think about that number?
Yeah, no, I think that that's definitely accurate. I think it
Okay.
just depends, again, industry, right? So some
Yeah.
companies depend, like, I'm going to use the example again, but like the creative space, obviously being that, you know, you might be taking in more projects in that
Okay.
agency space, the income is going to be higher. Whereas if you're
Okay.
working at that oil and gas space where it's not as robust, it's not as many, you know, campaigns really going out. Maybe you're doing things quarterly versus like pushing out new products on a monthly or weekly basis. So
Okay.
I think it definitely varies. And then also, I feel like I got an understanding of this when the pandemic happened and I moved from New York to here. A lot of places are getting hit to the fact that people are in, you know, Houston is less or more cost efficient than in New York. But if you're
Yeah.
making a New York salary here, you know, so they caught on
Yeah.
to the game. So it's
Yeah.
definitely also location based because a lot of
Okay.
companies that I've been looking at as well, they have tiers based on where you're located. So
Okay.
a lot of
Yeah.
factors.
Yeah. And so now, what are some current trends or challenges in this industry, and how do you see it changing in maybe 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so I feel like current challenges, I feel like a lot of right now what we're seeing, especially in the immersion of AI,
Hmm.
I think that realistically, anything done correctly can be used in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anything can also be used in the worst way too, because there
Worst
are people
way.
that are going to figure out the ways to use it.
Yeah.
And so I think that first things first is about people should, I won't say hop on the train, but get themselves more familiarized with
Okay.
AI so
Yeah.
that they're not fearful of it. Because when
Yeah.
you're fearful of something and you stray away from it, you get behind.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think in order to stay competitive, in order to, you know, stay, you know, in the space where people are, is definitely about learning those tools and how they can be
Yeah.
effective for you. At the same time, it's like, all right, knowing that AI, things like a chat GPT is not the end all be all. Like you cannot think that you're going to put your ideas in there and they're going to flesh out this amazing
Yeah.
concept that has a human touch because no computer is ever going to be like a human, you know?
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think it's while staying on top of that trend and understanding, you know, its effectiveness, also still knowing that you as a human have so much value. So the
Yeah.
goal that I like to tell people, especially when it comes to AI, is that you want to use it to make you as a creative person or as a business person, what have you, make you better. Don't
Yeah.
rely on it to do your job.
Yeah. I completely agree. So now with all of that and AI emerging, how do you stay updated with the latest developments of your field?
Yeah, so I am an avid ad week watcher. I
Okay.
follow a lot of different creative agencies that I'm inspired by just to see, you know, being that since I am, you know, a small business and I feel like I did this a little unconventional way.
Okay.
It's not like I had the agency experience before starting my own, right? So I'm kind of
Yeah.
learning as I go. So definitely looking at agencies that I'm inspired by to kind of see where they are. I feel like we've heard this saying all the time. There's no point to reinvent the wheel, right? So when you
Yeah.
find those people that are doing an amazing job, that's where you get inspiration from. So I just, you
Yeah.
know, watch those. Obviously, looking at the news, staying active on all of the apps, following the founders of those apps to see what they say. And yeah, and just also just keeping conversation going with my peers, you know, and asking the questions. And I try to also, I've lately been very intentional about finding events
Okay.
or different things that can help to keep me abreast on all the things that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So now going into kind of your daily work as a creative director, what's your schedule like? What tasks do you spend the majority of your day doing?
Yeah, so no day is ever the same,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. And I think that's why I truly love being in this space. But typically, I know my Mondays are typically my day for like admin things. So I stay
Okay.
away from taking any meetings because I want to start the week off organize and focus on
Okay.
like taking a plan of action for the week, right?
Yeah.
So that's like
Yeah.
mapping out my week to know like, all right, this is, these are heavy meeting days. This is going to be my work focus day. And then that allows me to be, more proactive. There are some days where I'm on calls with clients doing strategy calls and talking through, quarterly ideas, looking at analytics. And there are some days where I'm just creating or ideating and thinking through, making mood boards. Then there's some days where I'm on set and it's a cool project and we're finally at that part where we're able to bring it to life. And so shoot days are my favorite because they remind me of being in New York and when I was on set as a stylist assistant. And so I try to emulate what I experienced on set there. So from the snacks and the call sheet and being, all of those things, because I know that when I was on set, snacks help to make the day go better. So it's like that. I love those days, even if they're long, because it's rewarding to see things all come to life in one space. And then some days, my Fridays, some days are filled with absolutely nothing because I need to rest. As somebody who is a big mental health advocate, I've experienced, just dealing with depression and being overwhelmed and just overworked and then burnout, right? So I'm making it a point to add rest throughout the week. Like growing up, as a kid, your parents tell you take a nap and you're like, no. But now that I've gotten older, I appreciate the naps. The naps are amazing. So,
yeah. So now, would you say that this is a 9 to 5 kind of job? Do you have to take work home, or are you able to just keep it in your work hours?
Right. Great question. So I'm working on that work-life balance. Being that I work for myself and I work from home a majority of the time, I will say it has definitely been a challenge to cut it off because I'm very much like, oh, let me finish it. I'm almost there. And then I'll find myself up at 5 a.m. Is that good? Absolutely not. It's not good at all. And I think that being an entrepreneur adds an extra layer of responsibility because even though I'm the creative director, I'm also the account manager. I'm also the project manager, right? I do all of the things. I'm also the one sitting here trying to promote the business while still trying to, maintain client relationships. So it can be challenging. And so the reality, especially as a small business owner and starting off, you have to know that there may be days that, it's 7 o'clock and you're still working, right? But I think it's all about being intentional, being proactive with your time and time management and finding the ways that work for you, because everyone has a way, right? Everyone has advice, everyone has a tip. But understand that what works for this person might not work for you. And that is okay. And I think once you understand that and be okay with that, it allows life to just get that much easier. But yes, to answer your question, you do sometimes take it home. Now, if you're working for a company and you're not in charge of all of the other deliverables, right? You're not the front facing, trying to secure clients and all of that, then I think with any corporate job, work-life balance for sure. Because, when you leave, when I ended corporate, I had a contract with Twitch in 2022. And I had to learn how to step away because at the end of the day, I'm not saving lives. Okay. And it's I'm not going to overwork myself, right? We need that balance. And so definitely giving yourself that cutoff and closing your computer. That's what I have to do. That's what I had to do, especially, working from home, close it and just, it'll be there tomorrow.
That's the way, And so now going into some specific skills and knowledge, are there certain degrees that are really required to become a creative director? Or what's the educational path kind of look like?
Yeah, so as time has progressed, it's pretty interesting. The different creative directors I have met, it's not like it's all been a traditional path, right? Some have went to art school, some had no schooling, right? Some went to business marketing, had a marketing degree. I think that as the years have progressed and social has become a job, because at first when I was in college, social media was not a job. But now that it is, there have been there's schools that are creating certain programs and things that are tailored specifically for it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I feel like if you're creative, you're born with it. Like the schooling teaches you about people skills. It teaches you maybe the legalities, like, okay, I need a contract and things like that. But I feel like a creative director, and this might not be true for everyone, but I don't know. I just feel like you're born with it, you know? Like it's like Maybelline. Maybe she's born with it, right? Like your gift. So like you don't really need like schooling, but it's just more so being able to think outside of the box. And I think school just allows you to become confident in your ideas and things like that. So I think, and just seeing with the job market how things have transitioned, there are people who have tech degrees that are running companies. I mean, that are creative directors now, because, you know, like maybe that's a job. And I used to hear that when I was in marketing as a major. They were like, whenever it comes to a company doing layoffs, a lot of times marketing is the first to go, because they're like, well, you don't really need, you know, anybody can be a marketer, right? And so sometimes that's how I feel like people look at now in the creative space. So I think it's just all about finding an interest, and say, for example, if you're interested in being in the creative space, and even though you don't have a creative degree, it's all about getting that experience. So whether you're working on a project to show your ideas bring to life, ultimately that is what people seeing the work you do, not really your degree. It's the work you do that I feel like truly turns into opportunities.
Okay, amazing. So now, what are maybe some natural strengths or talents that you think someone should have in order to be successful as a creative director?
I think the ability to think outside of the box, for sure. And to go against, you don't always have to be the one that's trying to stick out and stand out amongst the crowd, but not be a follower, right? I think someone willing to take risks, because you have to kind of be that creative backbone for that company or that brand. And you have to believe that the idea that you're bringing and coming to life is amazing before your client can believe that. So I definitely think being confident and taking risks. And what else would I say? Just I think that those are, I guess, high level skills that I feel like would be super beneficial. Those are the top that come to mind right now.
Okay, perfect. So now what tools or technologies, maybe softwares or programs, do you use a lot as part of your job?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that a lot of graphic designers are probably going to be like cringe at this, but I absolutely love Canva. Canva has made the creative process so much easier. And I actually just got the chance to go to their Canva Create event in LA. And it was just so amazing. I've been using Canva since probably like 2015 when I had makes me sound so old too when I say it. But I've been using it, and it was when I initially had a blog. I was using it to make cool graphics, right? And I was a friend who was putting all of my non-creative friends onto Canva. Whenever they had to do presentations for work, I'm like, have you checked out Canva? Like, it's amazing. And I'm happy that more people are becoming hip and excited about it. I think graphic designers, they're still turning their nose up, but the easeability that Canva allows the non-creative person to bring things to life is unreal. Like all of the different features that they have, like and I think it's so good for small business owners, because a lot of times, you know, you don't have the funds to pay someone to be your graphic designer. But now with Canva, you have the opportunity to create graphics that can compete with the best of the best, you know? So that, number one, is definitely my go-to that I tell people about. And I think that next thing would be like a Trello, a Monday, you know, some type of project management, Asana tool, because being able to see what you have going on in front of you, versus on, like, I'm an avid like I have an agenda. I like to write things down, but that notification that you get from your project management tool, and if you're working on a project with other people, they also know that this is due and you're the one who owns it. So it's like an accountability thing. So I
Okay.
really like that. Those would probably be the two like programs. And then if it comes to like when it comes to like creating content, editing, and things like that, I am an InShot CapCut girly app. I
Yeah.
think they make creating content easy, and they make you look like you are a videographer with all this experience, you know? So I
Yeah.
definitely say that if you are starting in this space, definitely Canva is a go-to for sure. Any type of project management tool, I like to use Trello, and I've used Asana. And then lastly, like I said, CapCut and InShot. I think
Okay.
you can make magic happen there. Oh, and then if you are someone, because right now I will say manually, I do a lot, like my invoices and things are manual,
Okay.
but Honeybook is a great platform, just because it, again, you can have everything in one space from your contracts to your payment system to everything,
Okay.
right? And I think the biggest thing when working with clients is how can you make their lives easier? And so Honeybook is definitely one of those websites or platforms that do
Yeah.
help that.
Okay, great. So now, if someone wants to make a pivot into being a creative director from maybe another career or a non-traditional background, what do you recommend them do if just like what's the fastest way that they can get their foot in the door, basically?
Yeah, I think the fastest way is to, how can I say this? Is to just like jump in it, right? I think find a
Yeah.
brand. Maybe, I mean, there's not one person. I feel like everyone knows somebody who is an entrepreneur. They have one friend that has a business or something, right? And so I
Yeah.
think, like I said earlier, it's all about what people can see you do. So maybe you take this friend, and if you have this creative idea, work with this friend and bring it to life, right? And then add it
Okay.
to your portfolio. And then,
Yeah.
that's what I did initially before getting into fashion. I would go and thrift clothes and come up with my own concepts. Friends, I would find friends to be models, and I would do all of the things, right? So it's like,
Okay.
being that we have the world out here, I think that it's all on you just taking the initiative and understanding that at the end of the day, when you're passionate about something, and if a transition is what you want to make, you sometimes the opportunities might not knock at your door, so you have
Yeah.
to create them for yourself, right? And so
Yeah.
I think putting yourself out there and creating ideas, and kind of being of service to people in the way that you want to eventually get paid, I think is a great tool, a great way to get your foot in. And then also, if there's a brand that you really like, right? And if you don't have the experience that qualifies you to get paid, maybe you reach
Okay.
out and say, hey, I'm looking to get into creative direction. I would love to help on your next project. Please let me know this, that, and that, right? And
Yeah,
I like to tell people the worst that people can say is no, but you'll never know unless you
that's
ask.
true.
And so,
That's true.
it's about, this is where the pitching comes in place, right? You put an idea together and you reach out to that brand and say, hey, I have this idea. I would love to help you. Let me know. Now, understand that there's going to be probably a lot of no's potentially, but then you're going to come across that person that is in dire need of help, and they are willing to allow you to use your gifts. And when that chance comes, I just say, like, step up to the plate. How they say,
Yeah.
right? Like, stay ready so you don't
Yeah.
have to be ready. So practice around your
I
house,
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, whether you want to even take a product that you use on a daily and make your own campaign out of it, or some creative marketing and bringing it to life. Like, that's what the beautiful thing of social. You can literally create anything and put it out there, and someone might pick it up and see it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
it takes is you really just stepping outside of your comfort and
Yeah.
betting on yourself.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so now, what are some books, resources, or programs that you recommend our listeners look into if they are interested in kind of getting started in this space?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, fun fact: I have all of these books. I have like this color coded bookshelf over here, and I am not. I am an avid starter of books, but I do not finish them, and I'm working on getting better at
Okay.
that. But in terms of resources, I think that while people, there's YouTube, right? I think
Yeah.
there's TikTok. TikTok is like a great search engine. And I
Yeah.
think that if you figure out what it is that you want to do, it's just all about searching. you know, and like
Yeah.
doing the due diligence. Will Smith he's like on this press run for Bad Boys, and he
Okay.
had made a comment, and he was like, the difference between good and great is magnificent. You can wake up and be good, right? But it's going to take a
Yeah.
while for you to get great. So he was like, ask yourself, are you spending 70 hours a week perfecting your craft? Like, and when he said that, I was like, wow, okay, so I'm good.
Yeah.
But I want to be great, right? And so I think it's just also aligning yourself with people who might not be in the industry that you want to be in, but you
Yeah.
value their work ethic, you value their hard, you know, their ability to keep going and all of the things. And, you know, I mean, I listen to the Jay Shetty podcast. I think sometimes, you know, it just depends on what you feel like is needed for you. But yeah, I say use those Googles, ask the questions, and then once you find someone that is either in a space that you want to be in, it's again no point to reinvent the wheel. What are they listening to, right?
Yeah.
What apps or, you know, what programs are they subscribed to that they talk about that has been beneficial for them? And then at the same vein, I like to also tell people to not get so over consumed with everybody providing their like self-help books or their all these
Yeah.
things, because then you are like information overload. I don't even want to look at anything. So definitely be intentional and, you know, strategic on the people that you decide to, you know, listen to. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now what other fields would you say that are kind of similar to this one? Or maybe what fields do you see that as a creative director, or what other roles do you see that you work closely with?
So like I said earlier, I mean, creative is within art direction.
Yeah.
Um, it could, you know, with visual design. I think it can go in so many different ways.
Yeah.
It just depends on the industry. So if you're in fashion, right, the creative director is kind of like the art director. But actually, those can be two different roles, right? Like when I worked, I used to do styling at Brooks Brothers. And so I worked
Okay.
in their e-commerce area. And
Okay.
so we would do campaigns and all of the things. So there was an art director, but then there was also a creative director that
Mm.
helped. Creative director was helping with the set. The art director was like making sure that like everything worked. It was just,
Okay.
yeah. So, but the things they
Interesting.
can so overlap, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think also it depends on budget, because if you have a budget, then they will have those two different roles. If not, you
Yeah.
will be everything in that one role. So I think it depends on that. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any other synonymous like roles that can go with creative direction. But I think like art is the one that kind of comes to me.
Okay.
And a little bit, if you could say like marketing is a very broad, like very broad. If you're like, oh yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
marketing, but I think that, you know, the creative director for, you know, an ad campaign or an ad agency, that still kind of can in line with like art direction too. So I
Yeah.
think that's probably the one right there.
Okay. So now finally, if you could talk to your younger self when she was
Mm.
just starting out, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to trust the process, understand that at the end of the day, what is for you, right? But you also have to work for it and give yourself grace. I think understanding that sometimes we put the most pressure on ourselves to be whatever it is that we want to be, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we put too much on ourselves. And so understand that like whatever gift you have and whatever you're passionate about, if you put that out and let God know what it is that you want to do, like he will make it come to pass. And so you just have to trust it, right?
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, because you're trusting and you're not seeing the vision all come to life yet. But you have to know, again, if you are passionate about something,
Mm.
passion the money will yield from passion when you keep going. You just
Yeah.
have to keep going. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. And also understanding, the other thing I would say is like, you're not alone. Lean into your community. Um, it's sometimes easier to seclude yourself
Yeah.
and, you know, just try to handle it on your own. But we were put on this earth to be in community with people. And so in order for them to do that, you have to let them in. And so I
Yeah.
think that, especially as an entrepreneur, you know, like it's going to sometimes be lonely, but
Mhm.
if as long as you lean on your community in the times when you can't lean on yourself, it'll be all good.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that,
Of
Krystal.
course.
So yeah, just finally now, where can people reach out to you or where can they follow along with your work?
Yes. So first and foremost, you can follow me on Instagram. It's underscore inspired by Krys. And there, on my bio, you'll see that my agency is Clique Bait. So that's CLIQUEBAIT.creative. And
Okay.
then website, www.clickbait.co. So yeah.
Yeah. And we'll make sure to also tag your LinkedIn also when this gets
Oh
posted
yeah.
so that people can reach out to you and kind of follow along with what you're doing. Just a bit easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all that we have for today. So Krystal, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for talking about your experience as a creative director and also as a founder to your own company. That's really exciting stuff. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for reaching out, first of all, and like taking the time. I count it as an honor. And I hope that whoever is watching this, that you got some type of inspiration, and absolutely, please feel free to reach out. I'm an open book. I want to be that person that I wish I had when I was growing up. So yeah, by all means.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!